Hey, this is Tom Malash, and I'm going to tell you the biggest thing you can do to make your Agile change last. I've been involved in the Agile community for over 20 years, before it was even called Agile. And I'm going to give you the single best way to make sure that when you do an Agile change, that when you do an Agile transformation, that the actual work lasts. A lot of times we see people go in and they do an Agile change or they do an Agile transformation. They bring in a ton of outside coaches. The coaches work with teams across the enterprise. Usually some sort of methodology or framework is selected from on top and imposed on down to the lower teams. And we see those teams actually having a fair amount of success. We can see them sometimes delivering projects faster and better, hitting their deadlines. Usually they float scope, because that's the secret of Agile, is floating scope. And the teams, while the outside coaches are there and while they're enforcing the change, actually can do really well. We've seen improvements 10, 20, $30 million in just a couple short years with a team of outside coaches. Here's the problem. When the coaches leave the organization, when the transformation is over, we rapidly see people reverting back to old habits, reverting back to old processes. Nothing that was in that Agile transformation became a part of the DNA of the new organization. The culture that didn't change, culture being that reference for literally what people do, not what they say they do or what they think they do, but what they actually do. We all like to celebrate our cultures. That's usually the mission and the values and some of the underpinning things that make up for a great company. When I'm talking about culture here, though, I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about what people actually do. And when a coach is present or a scrum master is present and you have sometimes a league of outside coaches come in, you can really change the day-to-day behavior of the teams. But when they leave, if the hearts and minds of the people working inside the organization have not embraced those new Agile values, guess what? They really quickly revert back to old habits and behaviors when they're no longer being enforced from the outside. So here's the number one secret, and for some reason it's a secret. It shouldn't be a secret, for having a truly successful long-term Agile transformation. The Agile transformation itself must behave in a way that is congruent with Agile values. It must be congruent. It must reflect those values. You know what doesn't reflect values? Saying I'm going to adopt this giant Agile framework and I'm going to install it from the top down by a fiat, and I'm going to bring in outside coaches and consultants to make it happen. And guess what? That's not congruent with Agile values. So is it even possible to do large-scale Agile transformation? Is it even possible to do large-scale corporate change and reflect Agile values? Absolutely. It's absolutely possible. I've created Agile teams that we started with transforming a company, and those teams still run impeccably 20 years later. But here's the thing. The people being transformed have to own the change. It can't be imposed from outside. Sure, you can use outside coaches and outside consultants. You probably will. But it has to be done in such a way that the participants own those changes. And the key participants who need to own it are the frontline managers. They must really own the change that is happening inside of their organization. We have a whole program designed to make sure that happens. And I'll hit in future posts some of the specific things we do to make sure that ownership occurs. First and foremost, we must behave in a way that is congruent with the new way, or our transformation will ultimately unwind. More tips tomorrow. Have a great day.